Hello, I'm Daniela. I'm participating in the 100-Day Challenge, where I am creating 100 of some object using art. I'm choosing to make mini landscapes, and I'm using watercolor as the medium. Now, all the rules for this challenge are self-imposed, and that was a little intimidating at first to create these rules, but once I had created them, it made this challenge a breeze. I'm 3/4 of the way through with my paintings, so I have about 75 or so done, and I'm loving it. I could easily have done 200 paintings. When I first started, I wasn't sure how that would go, if I could even get to 100. But once I started and I had a little formula set up for creating them, well, it came very easily. The first thing I did was cut out a bunch of watercolor paper. My original plan was to cut out all 100 pieces so that they'd be at the ready, but that turned out a little daunting, a little time consuming, and very repetitive. So I just made a bunch of them. I'd cut up 2 or 3 sheets of watercolor paper to 2 by 3 inches, and then I had them ready to go. What I wanted to do was round the corners of these paintings. Just thought it gave me something a little fun, a little different than just a square or rectangular piece of paper. And then once I started to really enjoy the process. I was intimidated at first, a little nervous. How was I going to come up with 100 landscapes? But really, it's not that hard. Every painting I make is different. So if I want to go back and revisit a landscape, I will. And because I know I've already painted it, I might use it as reference, but I'll also change something about it. And therefore I have a new landscape. Now, I learned major things from participating in this challenge. The first one was skill development. Because I painted so many skies, so many series of mountains, so many bodies of water, my work improved very gradually as I kept creating. I got more of an eye for detail on these things to make them really specific. I worked on color mixing without really intending to do it. It was just something that had to be done. And by around painting 20 or so, I got the habit of how to get the exact color I wanted.
Not only does it give me practice in mixing the colors, but because I have a vast array of paintings that I've done, I get to actually start to see what colors I gravitate to. And I put out some of my paintings. I have more, but I tended to gravitate to these colors. I love that color palette. These are the colors that I actually have in my home. Not so much the 2 on the end, but these are the colors I have in my home. In the paintings, I purposely try and look for colors on the opposite side of the color wheel. And this is a very cheery palette for me. It's a tropical palette, and I enjoy it. And I can start to see that in my work.
I also got a feel for how to make the composition the way I want. Working on such a small scale is a little unusual for me, and so having to replan the image so that I had room to make everything in my landscape was a big learning curve. It took me probably till painting 50 to get a feel for that. The next benefit from working on these 100-a-day landscapes was that I started to develop an eye for the few things I needed, the simple things I needed to capture that landscape. So instead of making sure I painted every leaf in every tree, I painted a color. So instead of making sure I painted every leaf in every tree, I would create and paint things that suggested leaves. So my shapes were less perfect, more of a hint of a leaf. And I used lots of white space, at least compared to what I used to use before then. I found this very helpful, and it changed the way my style looks.
Now, in continuing to discover my style, I have some additional paintings, and I kind of notice what I gravitate to. I enjoy painting structures like lighthouses, hotels, and so that really works for me. And I just keep that in mind. That when I'm looking for something to paint, I can take another one of these paintings that I've already created and enhance it, make it bigger, and it gives me more areas to practice. And that goes into the next benefit when working with 100 paintings, particularly small ones. You give yourself the freedom to experiment. Because I know that I have so many paintings to do, I might try my hand at something I normally wouldn't, because after all, I have 100 paintings. So I'll make a field, or I'll make still water. Not everything will be success, but as a whole, they're all learning experiences.
By working on something with 100 paintings, the other benefit I got was the freedom to make mistakes. If you know you're making 100 paintings, well, you know you're still going to make more paintings. And so you take a little more chances. You do things that you wouldn't have done before because it's new now and it's exciting. So I may have used a different color or turn the paper around so instead of being in the landscape mode, it was in a portrait mode. I did a close-up of a series of trees. I didn't really like the end result, but I got what I wanted from it. I played, I experimented, and tried something new. And the last benefit I got from taking on a project of this undertaking kind of surprised me. Instead of being intimidated by my work, I gained more confidence. And what surprised me about that wasn't the gaining more confidence, because the more you are proficient in something, the more confident you are.
It changes my self-doubt to curiosity. Instead of, oh, I don't know if I can do this, it's, oh, what am I going to paint today? Let me try my hand at painting something unusual. Let me try my hand at painting something I haven't done before. Maybe something with a fun sky. These things really contribute to my vast wheelhouse of skills and things that I can just decide I need more work on. It really changes the way I look at myself as an artist.
So this challenge not only gives me a large body of work, so now I have 100 mini paintings, or at least I will when I'm completed, but it taught me so much. I gained far more from this than I expected. I've enjoyed the process, which is always a bonus, but then to grow as an artist is very exciting. I hope you'll take chances with your watercolor. Maybe come up with a simple theme and make maybe 5 of them. You're working on ferns, paint 5 of them, or flowers or leaves, and see how your work changes with something as simple as just 5. If you're ambitious, give it a shot and do 100 of them. And let me know in the comments what you think and if this is a challenge you'll undertake. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe. And thank you for joining me today. I'll have more watercolor videos coming out in the future, and more videos on the creative process and things you can learn from using watercolor.